Hey YouTube, Facebook, humans, people. I just thought I'd kind of wing it. Um, I've just had a lot of thoughts today about mostly just people that control things and people that talk about it and why we're all afraid to tell the truth. Um, Generally, very general, broad topic, just talking about talking and why we don't talk about what's really going on. Um, in so many areas, politics, religion, spirituality. We never seem to get to the root of things. I mean, some things are so obvious, but people have their heads stuck in their group identity. That's a lot of it. Um, a lot of what keeps people from growing spiritually is they won't go out into the desert. They won't, like the grain of wheat needs to die in order to produce fruit. I mean, everything in life works that way. Um, you know, I was raised among a lot of Catholics, and they love to say the Bible doesn't self-interpret. But sometimes it does if you really pray, which is a lost art, of course, because by prayer we mean meditation. Um, Anyways, so much there. I mean, there's so much we don't know because really it all boils down to we lean so heavily on what's called the left brain and the linear thinking, and we don't sense, we don't perceive, we don't have any sense, I think. And what we call realism is brown nosing. What we call reality isn't reality. It's the artificial reality by the powers that be. And I mean, it's all in place because to a large extent we choose um, to have them where they are and to have ourselves under them. Those are, it's radical. Let's not talk about how radical anarchy is. Let's talk about how radical statism is. What an effort it requires. An effort of the mind. It's unbelievable. And no one's willing to own up to the fact that we do all these mental gymnastics to justify our own enslavement. Uh, Really, I mean, you could look at the biblical book of Exodus, see all the groaning, as it's called, in the desert of how much better things are when you're a slave. I mean, but you don't have to look in the Bible because you can just talk to anybody in civilization. It's a cult. It's a cult. It's a radical cult. We talk about radical Islam and how dangerous it is. Woo, It takes one to know one, I gotta say. And do I think the CIA and Mossad and ISIS are all one entity? Absolutely. So, what we need isn't a bigger system. What we need is to vacate, to divest, to boycott, uh, to sanction if necessary. We need to bring back tribal justice, and we need to bring back a sense of just sense. And anarchy needs to be on the table. We can't just write it off. Okay. And it's not that I want the whole world in a state of anarchy. No, it's just that we need to have anarchy in our minds in order that we may find some sane way of approaching things in our lives. Uh, so critical. Uh, what else? I mean, or let's talk about those that control, those nameless, faceless people that control the banks, the media, you, me, to a large extent, to the extent that we're in this world and in this society. We're not allowed to speak ill of them. We can't name and blame them, or maybe we can name them. We can't identify their ethnic group, though, because, oh, that's going way too far. Um, they're a protected group. They're immune. Almost as if they had diplomatic immunity. You know, if the Irish had that kind of immunity, which we don't, the media uh, has no problem making racial slurs about the Irish. None whatsoever. And I'm not whining about it, I'm not kvetching about it, or whatever the Celtic word is. But seriously, um, you know, there is a minority in America, but it's not an oppressed minority. I think you know who I'm talking about. Um, I mean, and goodness gracious, we need to defend ourselves. We don't need to go out and do anything violent. What we need to do is we need to stop listening to them. You need to shut off your television and think for yourself. I mean need. I don't mean should or be a good idea. I mean to know your own mind, to own your own mind. I think that's essential. So, that's all I have. Um, I mean, I could go into religion a little. Um, these ideas that have come from a certain monotheistic uh, group. I mean, communism. It's murder. It's murdered far more people than Islam. Okay? Not that I am at all in favor of uh, this Islam trend in England, and now we always get the backwater from England, so it's making its way over here, predictably. Um, not at all in favor of that. That is sick. I mean, I don't mean to offend anyone, heaven forbid, but no, does not portend well at all. I mean, we need to stop following the Anglo-American establishment, the Judeo-fascist establishment. Uh, just stop looking up to these sociopaths who are put in these sort of management positions that are dressed up as government office or journalism. It's nonsense. You person listening to me is a better journalist than any one of these people uh, on national television. Okay, you need to know that. Um, my Facebook feed gives me better news reporting because I discern and I choose which sources I'm going to read. Okay, and that's the power of the new media, the social media. Um, Obviously, it's still controlled. Mark Zuckerberg, he knows his roots. He's in cahoots with Netanyahu. His feeling is, uh, whatever. He's being radicalized, is what it is. Though we don't dare say that about anyone not Muslim, right? He's being radicalized. Facebook is radicalized. Let's call it what it is for a change. Let's tell the truth for once. Call a spade, just for a day. What's the worst that could happen? Um, well, it's obvious what that is. Um, but there's still free media like in Iceland, and we can, I mean, I think there's unseen.is. It looks very beta right now, which is typical. But it's there. It's free. It's uncensored. Um, and they're not spying at all, I guess. So, allegedly. Anyways, that's all I had. Yeah, I mean, I think this election was a surprise. Uh, certainly was to me, though. I don't understand what's going on here, and I think those who pretend to don't either. Uh, but I mean, it was either Stalin or Hitler, and they're both servants of the bankers, so whatever, whatever, doesn't matter. It's all part of the show. Can't you see that? Please. It takes a while. Man, you gotta step away. You gotta come away from the mainstream media and the society on which it preys. And you gotta go pray, Pray, meditate, in other words. Um, know yourself. Try to know yourself in everyday life. I mean, even if you can't come away, you can still shut your eyes. Uh, do it. Do it. It's the one thing they don't expect, I think. I can't think of anything else that they wouldn't expect. Conformity, non-conformity, they've seen it all. They've assimilated it all. It's all controlled opposition. Know your mind. Let go of control and power and voting, especially. What an illusion. What a delusion. Um, I voted, but I didn't vote for either of the people that most people voted for. Um, it's a protest vote. New York State. What are you gonna do? So, yeah. Uh, I mean, reality is so challenging and yet so empowering. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I mean, you could talk about anything, any of the things that are real that the television doesn't even address. You could talk about the weight of the soul experiments that they've done. We could talk about the Wampas Nation in Peru. There are Native Americans now that have their own nation state, and obviously they had to go through the UN, unfortunately, to do that. But this is exciting. We're seeing some really awesome things. But we need to know that all of these things come from spirit, from the human spirit, from standing up. You know, I mean that's the root of this. So, and I know that all of us have it inside us at the critical time to do that. Um, some of us may think that we're just not good enough. I think most people do. Most people just front and posture. Um, I know I do too. Um, well, what good is it at all? Where is it getting you? I think we need to change an inner revolution, most of all. Um, a change of language if possible. I was listening to some Rastafarian discussions, and I don't know. Maybe they have their own mafia. Maybe they're not the most reputable. I don't know much about how it works, but I see strength in that movement, and some interesting things. I like how they get back to simpler language. I like how they use the term Babylon culture when referring to the Western world as it presently is. Like, if you know anything about the Babylonian Talmud, you know the playbook they're using. Obviously, there's this fake thing called the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion, which, these fake conspiracy theorists use to try to discredit or dissuade people who aren't nerds like I am, who might kind of just easily become dissuaded from doing research into history because it's like, who's got time? Yeah. Well, when you're autistic, not only is it appealing, but also kind of it's the thing you don't suck at, so didn't choose the research life. The research life chose me, I guess. Um, Making $0 at it, but just loving every minute of it. Trying to find creative ways to share it. It's always the challenge, but also it's the joy. Um, so, anyway, um, the world's exciting. I think it could all just be a dream. I think that's a neat thing to think about. Um, Try it. Try it. See what it does. What are we on the inside, you know? Who sees through our eyes? Who hears through our ears? Who is that? Um, I just, every once in a while, I listen to the Upanishads on YouTube a lot, and every once in a while, a phrase just hits me. Like from the Bible, sure, that too. Um, wow, wow. If you have never listened to the Upanishads, just listen to it one time, and you'll know. You're not gonna want a refund of your time. I don't think. It's time well spent, friend. I mean, it's just I don't know what to say. There's nothing to say about it other than check it out. So that's a good thing to end on. Check out the Upanishads. It won't be the same. Take care.